The latest, cheapest power bank from Poundland, 2200 milliamperes, £3, August 22. As you would expect, it's slow pace, 5 volts, 1 amp in, out, 5 volt, 1 amp. That is the default slow pace. When I say slow, I mean normal. As you would expect, the input type is type B, micro. That's the old type. Still commonly around, but type C is a new type. But it's not type C, it's type B, input. That one there. Input, micro B. This one's pretty hard to get in, actually. This is the cable that came with it. So nothing special. Input 5 volt 1 amp, output 5 volt 1 amp. Today I would look for 5 volt 2 amp from a power bank, but most of the cheap ones are still on 5 volt 1 amp, which is 5 watts. Charging up. I'm using it in my mobile phone here to charge it up. So it's going about 4.92 volts and 0.9 amps. That's generally what it seems to do, which is nearly 5 volts, 1 amp. Just a bit off, so it's like 95% of 5 volts, 1 amp. Volts times amps equals watt, so 5 volts and 1 amp is 5 watts. This is a typical default slow speed things go at. I would say nowadays you would want at least 5 volts 2 amps, which would be 10 watts, but probably at the cheap end of the market you're not going to get that. But I think that's what you should look out for nowadays, really, for that standard. You can get even faster than that, more watts, but that's the next step up, really. This is the input and output I got, and I'll explain this in a minute, but for input you're meant to get 2200 milliamp hours, but I don't think any power bank does the actual rating that it shows. It usually does about 74%, I work it out at. So the first time I got 1769 milliamp hours it's charged to. Next time 1870 milliamp hours, and then out I get even less, and I'm presuming this is to do with losses, just natural power losses. I don't know whether expensive power banks can do better, but it means I'm getting about 55% of 2200 milliamp hours in reality, because I've tried it with this meter. That's what I've been getting. So I could be talking rubbish about that, but I think from a power bank you can expect it to give you about 55%. And it seems that the reason for the input being at 74% is because the lithium ion internal battery works at 3.7 volts, but you're using it for things at 5 volts, and you're even charging it up at 5 volts. I don't know what this means when you're charging it up. Does that mean it takes the 5 volts and it puts it down to 3.7 volts, and then at 3.7 it's given 2200, but you're at 5 volts? I don't know, I'm getting confused now, but you get the idea. Just imagine, think of it as your input, you're only going to get 74% when you're charging it up. So that's what you're going to get, and that's what I've got using this. And then for output, I was ending up with about 55% of what I was expecting, and I'm guessing that's just natural losses like the cable and stuff. I really don't know, but that's all I could get. So even though it's 2200, I'm getting about 1100 milliamp hours out of this. But I think that's typical for power banks, to lose so much power. I got the same sort of results with my 20,000 milliampere Blaver that was only really giving me about 9,500. Phone batteries nowadays come at around about 4,000 milliamperes. So with a 2,200, I'm really getting about 1,000 out of it. It would only charge it up 25% really. So ideally I'd be looking for a power bank around about 8,000 milliamperes, hoping to get 4,000 milliamperes out of it. And ideally I really want 5 volts, 2 amps, which is 10 watts. 5 volts times 2 amps equals 10 watts. Watts is volts times amps. But an 8,000 one might be too big, so I mean this is pretty good for £3. You're only getting, say, 1,100 milliamperes out of it in my opinion. No, I'm charging it up here. I'm getting 0.74 amps, 4.99 volts. So that's a bit lower than it said. I'm using its own cable. I don't know if that's because it's nearly fully charged. It glows red when it's charging, and I think when it's charged it stays red. It doesn't flash on and off. But that's it really. It's a cheap power bank. £3 out of Poundland. 5 volts, 1 amp. 2,200 milliamperes, but remember you're maybe only getting 1,100 milliamperes out of that. So for the price, I can't complain too much. One thing I've found is when it's fully charged, or quote fully charged, when the red light stops flashing, it just stays on. What I've found, if I take it out and put it back in again, I'll maybe get another 100 or 200 milliamperes. But you're talking crumbs at that stage, you know. But you may get a bit more extra out of it. I'm basing it on people using it for mobile phones when they're out and about. I mean, that's probably just a rechargeable battery in there, like the ones, you know, the normal ones you see is cylindric ones. That's all it is, just inside there. It just happens to have all this stuff at the front. Although those rechargeable ones, I think, go at 4.5 volts, so I don't know really. But there you go, it's a cheap power bank. It's okay. So I would suggest 5 volts, 2 amps if you can, but that might not be cheap. I mean, yeah, that might be £6 minimum or £7 minimum. So you take your chances. This is a first use video. I haven't used it very long. I've only used it about 3 times.